Are you guys struggling to find the best camera deals and equipment you need to actually improve your videos? There's a lot of different expensive camera options, but there are also some really good budget options, and maybe you're just confused on which to buy. Well, in this video, we're going to be breaking down the best cameras, the best audio, the best lighting, all within this Black Friday checklist deal for you. So, we're going to be covering all of those. I have a special guest today. We have Craig, another creator here at Think Media, and we're just going to go through this whole list, starting off with some cameras and basically creating different YouTube setups depending on your budget range and your skill level. So, Craig, welcome aboard. How are you feeling?
Absolutely, man. Super excited to go through this checklist and just get people the best deals, especially because it's Black Friday. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff is on sale, so we're super excited for it. Yeah.
Let's
Well,
do it. So,
yeah, let,
we got some cameras on those list, and that's always fun to start off with. This is the first one on our list is a webcam because many of us just want to improve the quality of our videos. Maybe you don't know how to operate a mirrorless camera or anything like that. So picking up a simple mirrorless, or sorry, a webcam, you could just plug that straight into your camera and you get 4K video, a major upgrade from a built-in webcam on your laptop. And this is a huge upgrade. You just plug and play, get 4K video, a little bit better low light and things like that. Pair this with a good video light, pair this with a good microphone, and you can instantly improve the quality of your videos without spending a bunch of money or knowing how to operate a camera.
Absolutely easy to use, quick to use, and the half-inch sensor in the OBS bot is going to just be way better for the lower light situations, especially. So if you are in a smaller room and you don't have great lighting, you can just upgrade your webcam by using something simple like this. So great pick, Nate. And you actually just did a
Mhm.
video about the OBS Meet too, and it's
Yeah.
pretty
We have
solid,
a
honestly.
video breaking it down. The current deal is $20 off with this coupon, so $110. It's pretty smart just to pick one up and get ready to go. But yeah, I actually been loving this for different recordings. Yeah, it was a huge improvement over the built-in MacBook, which is an expensive computer. But just upgrading with a webcam like this, I was so impressed with the image quality. And I think for those who just want a simple upgrade, this is definitely the one to pick up and get ready to roll.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive over to the next camera,
Yes,
Nate, which I know you actually have sitting on your desk right now somewhere,
I do.
the DJI Osmo Action 5. And this is specifically looking at the Pro, the combo kit.
So this
And
one is the 4, but I also do have the 5 Pro in the box waiting to
boom.
for me to check it out. I'm super excited. But yeah, what's great about these kind of GoPro style cameras is they're so durable. So these are meant to be run over, and all this crazy build quality. But also is really impressed with the image quality. You can shoot 4K 60, 4K 120 frames per second. And the Action 4, which is also on sale, is actually honestly a better deal. But two it's even cheaper than when I reviewed it. $209 for the Action 4. And look at that. You got the front flip out front facing screen so you can frame yourself as you were recording. I had a lot of fun just recording videos because it's so easy to carry. You just turn it on, press record. It's wide angle, so when you're vlogging yourself, you know you're going to be in the shot. Again, that front facing screen, so huge. And then the Action 5 is even better than that because it has improved image quality, um, improved battery life up to 4 hours. So I'm excited to test out this one, which will have more videos coming out here later. But yeah, those are two different cameras that are just one of those great things that could make a great gift for someone as well. Maybe they already have expensive camera, but picking up one of these is great for behind the scenes or vlogging.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, next camera on the list. Let's just keep going through because there's so
Yes.
many to get through. It's the Osmo Pocket 3. We love this camera here at Think Media. It's probably, in my opinion, the top camera that's come out in the last year in terms of impact, especially in the creator space and for YouTubers as well. So unfortunately, it's not on sale right now, even though it's Black Friday. And it's probably
Mhm.
because this is so in demand regardless. So they didn't need to put it on sale for things to be flying off the shelves still. But here you're going to get an awesome 4K camera. And I think my favorite feature of the Pocket 3 is actually its action track feature, where you
Hmm.
can just double click the screen and then it starts tracking you wherever you go. So you sort of have like a little camera assistant in your pocket anytime you're using the Pocket 3, which is a neat feature. And I know Nate has a Pocket 3 as well, and we've done
Got one right
dedicated videos.
here.
Yeah, oh, there it
Yep.
is. Look at that. So we've done dedicated videos about the Pocket 3 if you're interested. And we've even have a video where we did like the 50 like hidden features and tips and tricks with the Pocket 3, so you can dial in that camera and maximize its potential. And then if you want to get more than just the baseline Pocket 3, there also is a creator combo kit, which comes with several other things as well. So this
You
is
got a
six.
little microphone, you got a
Yep.
extended battery. I really do like the combo kit, and I do think it's highly worth spending that little extra. And, obviously just plugging in that little DJI mic. It connects to the Osmo Pocket 3. You don't need a receiver, and have some great audio with your video, which is probably more important. And we'll cover some great audio accessories a little bit later in this stream.
Yep, and the Pocket 3 will come with a couple of other accessories as well, like this extended battery handle, which is going to increase your battery life substantially. I believe technically it's like a 63% increase in battery life. And then you also get this little mini tripod and the Pocket, or sorry, the DJI Mic 2 as well. So lots of great accessories that come with that creator combo kit. So if you're going to already spend $519 on the base, might as well spend a little bit more to get the creator combo kit, in my humble opinion. Okay, our next camera, Nate, the ZV-1F. And this
Tell us
is,
about this.
so the ZV-1F is, even without being on sale, is Sony's cheapest camera that they
Wow.
make for creators. So it's traditionally around $500 for the ZV-1F, but right now it's on Black Friday. It's $100 off, so you get 20% off. It brings it under $400 for a brand new Sony camera, which is kind of crazy. So in a lot of ways, I like this camera. It's got good image quality, takes really good 4K video. The only drawback really would be with the autofocus performance. It's just a little bit slow at times because it uses an older autofocusing system called contrast detect autofocus. All that really means is sometimes it's going to be a little bit slower and there'll be some focus breathing. But we just did a full review about this camera on Think Media. So we'll make sure to get you access, link it in the description, or just search Think Media ZV-1F video. And actually, we're playing it right now on the screen for you, so you can check that out. But I love the ZV-1F. Nate, have you ever used this camera before or no?
I have not used the ZV-1F, but one thing that was a kind of a standout compared to the other cameras we covered so far is this one's also great for photos. So if you're doing travel, taking photos, this is going to be an upgrade. But the
It
next
will.
camera on our list is going to not have that autofocus issue. It's probably a little bit more of an upgrade is the ZV-1. And Craig, I know you recovered this. I actually used this for a bit myself early on in my channel. But yeah, I'll have you
Yeah.
take this
Yeah,
one.
I like the ZV-1F, and it's on sale right now for 14% off. And a lot of times, honestly, the ZV-1 is on sale. So
Hmm.
14% off. I mean, you can typically get it for around $650. The retail is $750. But regardless, this is a really good camera because it also has a built-in lens that zooms in and out. So the ZV-1F that we just talked about, that F stands for fixed. So it just had a 20 millimeter fixed focal range. So you only get one focal range with that camera. But with this camera, you get a 24 to 70 zoom range. And then in a lot of ways, you just get better autofocusing performance because it uses a different autofocusing system. And so if you can, and you can afford to spend a little bit more, obviously this is like $250 more than the ZV-1F, it will go, your dollars will actually get you a lot more for that price increase over the ZV-1F. But I know a lot of people, they're just looking for entry level. That's where the ZV-1F, the original one, would be a better option for some people. Yeah, I like the ZV-1 though. I like the ZV-1 and the ZV-1 Mark II. There's so many names: ZV-1, ZV-1 Mark II. Anyways, this one though has a lot of value because it is the original, and you can get it used even sometimes. But it is on sale right now.
Love that. Well, we're going to cover some more cameras. These are more intermediate, and also these are interchangeable. So if you want to change up the shots in your videos, you have flexibility of removing a lens, swapping out to something a little bit better, maybe upgrade later down the road, more professional setups. And the first on our list
Nate,
is
can
the
we answer
legendary.
this?
Yeah,
This
go
question
ahead.
is a really good question. And so the question is, so how's that camera $700? It's nowhere as good as the ZV-E10.
Mm,
In a lot of ways, I agree with you. I personally would go for the ZV-E10. but it solves a different kind of problem for a consumer because you still have to buy lenses with the ZVE10. So lenses are going
Yes.
to really increase your overall cost. And if you have multiple lenses, it gets really up there in price point. So by buying a point and shoot camera that comes with a lens, you can just throw it in a bag and you're good to go. That's all you need. You don't have to be swapping lenses around, which just gets a little bit bulkier. So that's why the point and shoot genre of
Hmm.
cameras even exist in the first place, to solve a different type of problem for creators. So hopefully that makes sense and answers your question.
Yeah, that's a great response because yeah, sometimes you don't want to necessarily pack a bunch of gear. And again, it's 650 and you have a built-in lens versus the ZV-10, it's 600 but no lens. So you have to factor in that. So let's cover the next camera, which happens to be the ZV-E10. Now, Craig, we've covered this camera endless amounts of times here on the channel ever since it came out. $600. I have one right here I use for filming B-roll on my for our videos here at Think Media. Um, there's so many good reasons about this camera. Not only is it interchangeable, but I think what's most important when you're picking up a camera is getting good 4K video, autofocus, and a flip out screen.
Yep.
So if you can have those three features, I think you have a pretty good camera for YouTube videos. So yeah, we've been shooting with ZV-10 endless amounts here on the channel, have tons of videos about it. So that's why it is highly recommended. And then we'll cover some lenses a little bit later as well, because there are several different options you can go with. But $600 is a fantastic price point for this. Um, Again, this is body only, so you will have to pick up a lens. You could even shop used. There's a used deal on Amazon, only $535, so probably not worth it. Just go brand new, in my opinion. But it's a fantastic camera. Craig, what are your thoughts on the E10?
Yeah, I think if you are a entry level creator or even a professional, like, I mean, Nate and I make videos we're full-time video professionals, and the ZVE10 has worked its way into our daily rhythms of creating content. So whether you're a beginner or a pro, this is going to be a great solution for you for both photo and video needs. And I think that's what's great about the ZVE10. It's such a versatile camera. So I think if you just need one camera, this is probably the first recommendation I would give you if you're just starting out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to some of the other cameras in our list. And we have the ZVE1, which sounds very similar. But what's the biggest difference between these two is the sensor size and as well as the price point. So if I look up here, if this will focus here, this has a way bigger sensor than this guy. And what's the difference? Why is a bigger sensor better? Well, you get more light onto your sensor. So you're going to have not only better low light performance, but you're also going to get more of a shallow depth of field, which you can kind of see right behind me. And the cool thing about the E1 is if you like the shot I have right here, I'm actually using the A7S3, but it has the same full frame sensor, the exact same sensor. So you're going to get the same look as how you're seeing me right now. In fact, better because we're just streaming. And this is at a crazy price point of $1,900. This is the same sensor that's in the A7S3, the FX3, which the FX3 is also on sale, but this is a much cheaper price point and it's built for vloggers or different creators. There's probably not a huge need to get the, a much higher quality build like on the FX3. I think many creators can get away with this smaller body. But yeah, you can shoot beautiful 4K up to 120 frames per second. And yeah, they kind of classify this as a vlogging camera. So taking on the go, filming yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, 14% off at the moment. And what's this crazy deal right here?
Save $530 with what?
Dell's Technologies price. Someone can look into that and kind of confirm, but if that's 1400, that's a crazy deal. Um, but yeah, so I picked this one up because honestly, I like the image quality. And the also has image stabilization, which is another key thing to look at when you're buying a camera,
Yep.
is does it have the sensor stabilized? So if you are vlogging handheld, it can get shaky on some of the cameras. And that is one downside of the E10 is it does not have image stabilization. So it does get a little shaky if your full intent is to go handheld or vlog yourself. But the E1 is a nice upgrade in that area. Craig, do you have any final thoughts on this before we move
Yeah, I
on
just
to some of
think
the others?
if you want to get Sony's best sensor that they currently are
Mhm.
making, this is the best sensor for consumer level cameras. Obviously, they make a Sony Venice camera or Burano. That's a different sensor, but this is the best the best sensor you can get for the cheapest price would be this camera right here. So if you want the best of the best, this is the route to go the
Yeah.
cheapest way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one downside of it is it does run a little bit hotter. So maybe if you are doing more long form videos, like you're recording hours at a time, like a podcast, you might want to upgrade to some of these other cameras, which would be the Sony FX30. Now, this has the same APS-C size sensor as the ZVE10 and the A6700, but the difference is like this is built for video the ground up, has a lot of controls for pro video. They even have the little XLR adapter if you are plugging in, let's see right here, this little unit. If you are plugging an XLR microphone, you can go straight into this camera and have that recorded onto your video file, which just kind of helps your whole process of making videos. So for the base model, it's $200 off, and that makes it roughly 11%. But Craig, you actually shoot with this, and I
Yep.
believe you are using it right now.
I'm not using this right now. I'm actually using the FX3, so the full frame
Mhm.
version of this same body. So I use the FX30 and the FX3 in my studio for both of my two main shots. So right now I'm actually traveling. I'm at my in-laws' house with this blank background. So I'm not in my traditional studio setup right now, but in my studio, yeah, I use the FX30 for my main angle, and then my studio B desk, I'm using the FX3 for a full frame shot. So, and the beauty about those two cameras are they're the exact same body style. So
Mhm.
no matter what you do when you swap back and forth between them, they're going to feel very similar. There's just a different sensor size, even though both of them still produce a really good image.
Absolutely. And again, this is APS-C size sensor, so you depending on the lenses you have to choose, you actually might you have more lenses available to you on the APS-C, but you do have, slightly smaller. If you want the same body and full frame, the FX3 is on sale, 5% off. Again, $200 off. This is probably the best Sony video camera you can get right now. Again, you got to have deep pockets for this one, but if you're looking for a good camera, this
Deep
is the one
pockets.
to get. Same, yeah, like you're saying before, same body. But just to know the capabilities of this, we shoot our Think Media podcast on these cameras. We also, Hollywood even shoots with these
Yeah.
cameras. This
Yeah,
gets
the
kind of
movie, the
crazy.
film The Creator was just shot. I think like they said about 80 to 85% of the film was shot using this
Hmm.
camera, which is wild. Like you could just walk down to
Yeah,
Best Buy and just like buy
just
this
pick it
camera,
up.
and
Yeah.
filmmakers are making movies with this camera, which is wild.
And this key feature is like it can shoot crazy low light. So if that's important to you, you can go up to ISO 12,800 and it looks really clean. I've done that a handful of times when I'm doing short films and it's really low light. So this is an absolute beast if you are looking for the best of the best. But Craig, are we going to move on to some lenses with these cameras because we can't shoot a thing if we don't have some quality
Yep.
lenses?
Yep. Let's talk about some lenses. So after you have your camera, you figure out what camera you have. If you want a full frame or a crop sensor camera, that'll kind of determine what lens you're able to get. So let's first talk about a couple of APS-C, which is the crop sensor format of lenses. And specifically this one is for, Nikon, or I think they actually make this same one for Sony, right? So anyways, this is the
Hmm.
Viltrox 13 millimeter f1.4, and I actually have this lens for the Nikon Z mount, and we use it with a Nikon Z30 right now. And it's a beautiful lens. And I think the only thing to really note here is the price is incredible for a 13 millimeter, which is a really wide angle lens on APS-C. At the 1.4 aperture is going to give you a really nice depth of field, even with that smaller sensor size of the APS-C camera format. So this is a great lens, a great starter lens, and you're not breaking the bank. $400. I know it still is pretty spendy for people, but some of these lenses that are comparable from the name brand competitors are going to be, $2,000-3,000 for a lens that lets in this amount of light. So, Nate, have you ever used this lens before?
I have not. A friend of mine has done a review on it, and I'm actually eyeing this because we recommend highly the 16 millimeter. But on
Yep.
APS-C, sometimes you might even want to be wider, right? So
Sure.
13. So those who don't know the millimeters difference, 3 millimeter doesn't seem like a huge difference, but on the wide end, it's pretty substantial. So that's like equivalent of 20 millimeter on full frame. So lovely wide angle. In fact, I can put this lens to 20. That's kind of what a 13 millimeter would look like on APS-C, and then I'll zoom back in so you don't see the messy room. Um, but yeah, so fantastic quality lens, f1.4. You're going to get that blurry background, a lot of light, better low light performance. So great,
Yep.
great lens.
Well, you mentioned the 16 millimeter. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh man, this is another one of those just things we recommended on Think Media for so many years. And the thing about what makes this such a quality lens, honestly, Sigma makes some great lenses. Very sharp, very crisp. I love the image. Again, f1.4, you're going to let more light into your sensor. So that's going to really just improve the image quality. You don't have to use as bright lights if you want to have a good looking setup. You're going to get that blurry depth of field. 16 millimeter on APS-C will give you a 24 millimeter equivalent, which is, let's see if I zoom in. This is 24. So this is 20, that's 24. So a little bit of a
Nice
difference
and
there.
wide.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice and wide, still nice and wide, and good for talking head videos. So
Yep. Well,
many of
look at
us who
this.
are,
And
I just
Brooklyn,
picked, yes, go for it.
yeah, Brooklyn just picked up a ZV-E10 with the Sigma 30 millimeter
Oh,
1.4,
nice.
and then this lens right here that we're talking about, the Sigma 16 plus a small rig cage. So that's great, Brooklyn. I mean, you're going to be able to shoot all sorts of stuff with that setup. And I love that you're thinking about
Hmm.
even the cage too, so you can rig out
Yeah.
more accessories like, monitor mounts or top handles. So I'd be curious, Brooklyn, if you're still, watching, what kind of stuff are you filming? We'd be interested to see that for sure. Okay, what is our next lens here? I will pull it up. Ah, the
Ooh, your
Viltrox.
favorite.
Okay. This lens is one of my favorite lenses of all time because it's so cheap and the image quality is really solid. So right now it's 5% off because it's Black Friday. But the big thing about this lens that's incredible is it is a full frame lens. So for the right now we have the Sony E mount listed, and I think they make some other variants as well. But this means that with any Sony camera that has ever been released, you can use this lens because it works with both APS-C cameras. Now, when you put it on a crop sensor camera, it will act like a 30 millimeter lens equivalent. And that's just because of the crop factor. And we won't get too technical on this stream, but just know, even if you have a crop sensor camera or a full frame, this is going to work for $150. That 20 millimeter focal range is going to give you a good wide field of view on a full frame sensor, especially. And the f2.8 aperture is going to let in way more light than you would if you had like a f4 lens, or some of the kit lenses start at f3.5. So all that means you're going to let in more light, and it's going to make your image look a lot better. So I love this lens. Nate, I haven't convinced you enough yet to buy it. I still don't think you have
Well,
it yet.
you are definitely working your magic because not only is it APS-C, it's also full frame. So no matter which camera you buy, it's going to work well. Now, I do want to quickly talk about today's sponsor for this live stream. Is The thing is, when you're making YouTube videos, many people, in order to make engaging videos, is to have compelling music in your videos. And the music site that we use for all of our videos, every video I made here, I think Media and edited for, has used Epidemic Sound. Not only do they have great music, but also sound effects. And we have a quick video we'll play for you to check out. As there's also a special Cyber Week deal and Black Friday. So be sure to check that out. Use the code THINK and you'll get a crazy deal. Check out the link in the description. But let's go ahead and go to this ad.
Epidemic Sound has the best selection of music for your videos that allow you to monetize with no issues. You can search according to mood, genre, beats per minute, and now search for tracks by referencing popular songs and artists by pasting a song link to find similar tracks in Epidemic's library. You can also customize tracks with editing features like create versions to shorten, loop, stretch, or even lengthen tracks to make the music fit your video perfectly. Their library is restriction free, so you can still monetize your content on YouTube and on social media as well. Right now, Epidemic Sound has a crazy Cyber Week deal where you can get 50% off a yearly plan, so you can click the link down in the description below to sign up.
Absolutely. So again, think using Epidemic Sound we've used for all of our videos, and I just really enjoy using them. It's also easy to find music, which is really important. And of course, if you're trying to make money, monetize your videos, then having copyright-free music is definitely going to help. So Craig, I'm going to pass it over to you, talk more about some full frame lenses, and then we're going to dive into some audio and other accessories a little bit later on. So stay tuned.
Yep, absolutely. So let's kind of dive through these pretty quickly here just to give you guys some options if you're looking for a full frame lens. So first one on the list is the Tamron 24 or 20 to 40 millimeters. So this is great for that wide-ish to mid focal length range.
That's
So
actually the
seven,
lens I am using right now. I was showing off earlier. I
hey,
can
there you go.
adjust this on the fly, right? So I can have both looks, a tighter and then something a little bit wider or maybe in between. But this lens is great because not only is it affordable, but I also find like most general purpose lenses start at like 24 or 28 millimeters. And that's typically not wide enough for a vlogger or YouTuber. You might want something a little bit wider. And I think this focal length is perfect at f2.8. Again, this is currently not on sale, but it is one of those lenses I would pair if I was getting one of those full frame bodies.
Yep, that's great. Well, then our next lens too is the Sigma 16 to 28. So again, a this is what we call kind of third-party manufacturers for lenses. Now, Tamron and Sigma are very reputable companies, so you don't have to be concerned buying lenses from them. But they're not like buying the native glass is another word for
Hmm.
lenses, the native lenses for like Sony camera systems or Nikon camera systems or Canon or whatever. So Sigma, this was the 16 to 28, a little bit more expensive, but it's going to give you a wider field of view if you need that, especially if you're a vlogger or you're in a smaller studio space, especially sometimes
Hmm.
you need that wider focal length, that 16 millimeters. So that's a great option as well. Nate, have you ever used this lens?
I have not. I have used the Tamron 17-28, and yeah, that is a nice wide
Yep,
angle.
that's great.
There's also the Sony equivalent, which is the next one, 16 to 35. Again, this one you
Deep
got money there,
pockets.
burn, burn in your wallet. This one, I believe it was on sale. It's not. Seems like it's not at the moment. Or the Mark One, I believe, is on sale, which is also quality lens. But yeah, so this is one of those better high end quality. And then on the last lens we have here is the Sony 20 millimeter 1.8. This is one of those go tos again for full frame. This is a prime lens, like so similar to Sigma 16, like some of the lenses. Prime means it doesn't zoom at all. So that is one of the downsides, but the upside is you get a wider aperture, f1.8. So more light, more shallow depth of field, typically lighter and sharper, and generally less expensive, right? So again, this is right now 11% off. And those are some of the vlogging lenses we have covered. We can also switch to some of the lenses we have. These are more general purpose lenses. Sigma 18 to 50 has been one of those lenses that's been growing on me. Again, if you have an APS-C lens, this is nice because you can zoom. It's also constant zoom, f2.8. So if I were to zoom in, it retains the same brightness. It's not going to lose light as I zoom in, which some of the kit lenses do, and that kind of sucks when you're filming. So this one, 18 to 50, right now is 5% off, $520. And it also has some accessories, which is pretty cool. An SD card, camera bag, and let me just switch to, there we go, boom. Yeah, so general purpose zoom lens for APS-C. And then we have some full frame ones we're going to cover 28 to 75, 20% off right now. I own this or I have owned this lens for a long time, used it for plenty videos. So these are just different versions that are also on sale. We'll just kind of quickly go through those.
Mhm.
This one's 50% off, which is crazy. Rokinon 24 to 70. So just different variations of a similar lens. This one that is on sales, Kyle on our team, our producer, this is his favorite lens, 35 to 150. So you don't get a lot on the wide end, but you can really zoom in and get a lot of reach. I shot a wedding recently and rented this lens because I knew I didn't have time to swap lenses. So it is nice to have an interchangeable lens so you can have those options to choose rather than buying a whole new camera system.
Yeah, that's
So
a huge zoom range. And I think what
absolutely.
I want our audience to know too is like as you
Hmm.
see, a lot of these lenses are not the name brand Sony lenses,
Right.
and we've used them, and those Sony lenses are great, but they're super expensive if you're just starting out. And a lot of these are really comparable image quality, so you don't have to break the bank to get a really good lens. I know lenses are still spendy as is. Like this lens is $1,700, but if you compare it
Hmm.
the name brand glass from Canon or Sony or Nikon, you would pay $3,000 or $2,800 for a similar lens. So it will save you some money over time. And lenses also transfer from camera body to camera body over time. So lenses are kind of like a one-time investment. You spend money and it'll
I've
last.
heard it said you date your bodies and you marry your lenses
Exactly.
because
That's a great.
the
That's a
cameras are going to upgrade over time, but you're gonna stick with your lenses.
Gotta marry those lenses. I like that.
Yes. Now, if you guys want to find any of these deals, we've actually linked all this in the description. You can click the links and follow these purchases. I know we kind of went through some of these pretty quickly, but all the deals are going to be in the description. You can later reference. But I quickly want to touch on a few accessories for lenses because not many people think about that. If you're going to film outside, one thing you want to pick up is an ND filter, which is more or less sunglasses for your camera. You can adjust the intensity. So sometimes when you're filming outside, it's too bright and you want to be at a low f-stop so you have a blurry background. Well, this filter I've actually used. It's actually quite good despite its price point, and right now it's even cheaper at $30.59. One thing you want to keep in mind is choosing the right size because all these lenses have different filter threads. So you can choose between 49, 67, and 82. So you want to pick the one that has the right filter thread. And usually you'll say on the front of the lens which size is it. And then similarly, we also have a mist filter. Now, I'm actually filming with one on my lens right now, and it just kind of like makes the lights a little bit bloomy, kind of softens your skin a little bit, and it makes you look better than you actually look in real life. So for $22, you can just instantly improve the quality and not worry about your pores and whatnot. But those are our lenses. We're going to now switch categories into some audio. Craig, you want to take this away as far as
Absolutely.
the audio?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to kick it back to you because
Okay.
you just did a review of the DJI Mic Mini, which is a brand new product that just came out in the last week, I believe. This thing is amazing. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
they sent it to you for review and testing, and we got to check it out. And I mean, what are some of your thoughts about this DJI Mic Mini?
Absolutely. So I have the kit right in front of me, and the key feature about this is it's a wireless mic, and it's also just small and tiny. It's crazy difference. Let me pull up. I got the DJI Mic 2. This one is half the size, minus the little windscreen. Half the size, like half the thickness. And what is most impressive besides that, you can just easily clip it onto you, but it sounds really good and it will kind of balance out your audio. So you don't really have to worry about, if you're too loud or too quiet. It's going to do a good job of making sure you have clear audio. And then they also sell a little white version right here. So if I'm wearing a white shirt, you can kind of clip it on and it's less noticeable. So these things have been huge. Little wireless mics are nice if you want to step away from your camera, right? Versus being right next to it underneath a microphone. Wireless mics can be incredibly handy. So yeah, this one's not on sale because it's just announced, but it's one of those great deals. I think if you're either looking for a gift for someone, again, these are pretty awesome, and I plan to use them more now that I have them. We
Yeah.
have a next wireless mic. This is kind of the king of wireless mics.
Yeah,
Craig,
so
you
this is yeah, the
own
Holyland.
this?
I do own this. The Holyland Lark M2. It's probably one of the most popular wireless microphone systems that's been released in the last year. And so now that with the DJI Mic Mini coming out, I'm
Hmm.
wondering with the Mic Mini how it's going to shake up the sort of mini budget wireless mic realm. But for a while, the
Hmm.
Holyland Lark M2 and this combo kit, I mean, this is like my favorite Black Friday deal happening right now. This is 38% off. So for $111, you get the two transmitters. So these are two microphones that you can send audio to all sorts of devices. So you get all of these different receivers. So these are receivers for a camera, for a USB-C device. So that would be, the newer iPhones or Android devices, as well as a Lightning receiver for older iPhones. So you get everything you need to send wireless audio from two different sources for $111. I mean, come on, like that is such a great deal. Like it gets me so hyped. I love this mic. I try to carry it with me wherever I go. And we got some tests going on in the background. We did a review where we reviewed some of the best wireless microphones of 2024, and the Holyland Lark M2 competed with the higher end systems like the Rode Wireless Pro system and the DJI Mic 2. Very comparable audio sound quality from a mic that is about a third of the price. So kind of a wild situation you got going on here.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
curious to do some like comparison reviews in the future because these both serve the same purpose, but I think like the Holly one is nice because it comes with the adapters for your phone. The DJI does as well, but it's kind of a bulkier receiver. Anyways, I'm kind of going on a little tangent, but both are great depending on your budget. I don't think you could go wrong with either.
Yep.
I would say though, if you have an Osmo product, you probably want the DJI because it connects to it seamlessly. But other than that, both are great. We have a few other microphones. These
Yep.
are not wireless. These are more on-camera shotgun microphones. So
Yeah.
we'll
So
go ahead and pull those up.
Yeah, so the first mic on the list, let me pull it up here on screen, is the Rode Video Mic Go 2. So we've raved about this microphone. Typically, it's $99, so about $100 for the Rode Video Mic Go 2. And right now it's on sale for 20% off, $79. And the cool thing about the Video Mic Go 2 is it's both USB-C and 3.5. So with that USB-C output, you can send it to a computer or a phone or any sort of USB-C device. But then the
Mhm.
3.5 that Nate's showing you on this other side is going to allow you to connect it to cameras. So you can use it for both purposes. And Nate actually just did a studio build where you can see that little rig behind you, Nate. Maybe you can tell them about
Yeah.
how you kind of rig that up.
Yeah, so like right here, what I do is because I have an overhead camera set up, I actually just have the microphone boomed down so I can have a microphone just out of frame. Now, here's an important thing because people might be wondering, okay, should I get a wireless mic or should I get an on-camera mic? I feel like most people just choose a wireless mic, but I prefer for filming lots of videos to have a camera just off frame or a microphone just off frame so I can plug it into my camera and not have to worry about setting up a microphone on my shirt or worry about batteries.
Yeah.
This you can just kind of leave plugged in and you know you're going to have good audio. You have to be a little careful that you don't go off frame like with a microphone like this. If I turn, it's going to lose some of me, but it does have its advantages. And also, I do think that these on camera microphones are going to sound better compared
Yes.
to a wireless option.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Not all microphones are created equal. A
Yes,
podcast microphone is going to sound and it's a different tool for a different job, right? Like podcast
absolutely.
microphones or a shotgun boom style or a wireless, it's a different tool for a different situation. It solves a different problem. So you don't want to just think that you can buy any microphone and it's going to give you the same quality of audio. It's not the case. So I love Nate's setup back there because it solves a specific problem with having
Yes,
kind of
very niche
yeah,
problem, but
no,
yeah,
that's a great video. I love that you made that, man. Okay, and then we have one more microphone, which is again, it's a shotgun style microphone. And I'll share screen here. Yep. So this is the Deity D4 Mini, 22% off. So it's on sale for Black Friday if you want to get this. Typically, it's around
nice.
$50. And the cool thing about this is, again, it's still a shotgun style microphone. So you can there's a little cold shoe port. You can put this on top of your camera, just like you see here. But it also has an extra input, which is
Mm,
crazy. So you can plug in a wireless microphone to this and be able to capture audio from two different locations. So you could be capturing the audio on top of your camera of a subject right in front of you, but then you could also have a person lapel mic'd off camera somewhere and then send both of those audio signals. So it's kind of like a mini audio interface as well as a microphone for only $39, which is, in my opinion, a great deal. I used to shoot weddings too, and I would like listen back to all of these films that I was producing, and I would have more expensive microphones on my camera, and then I would go to my like second shooter who I would give the D mic this microphone right here, the D4, and I would like the way it sounded better. So I actually bought a
mm.
second one and I started using that as my on-camera reference audio. So for only it's typically $50 on sale for 39. Gets my highest recommendation, to be honest.
And one cool thing with camera microphones is some people mount them backwards. So if you like kind of film and you're like pointing out, you're going shopping and whatnot, but you want good audio, mounting the microphone backwards towards you, you're going to get really good audio. And this little guy will be perfect for that if you want to kind of show as you are narrating versus doing voiceover.
Yep.
But a very versatile microphone as well and a pretty good price point. We have a few other microphones. This is again more high quality if you are doing podcasts. We have a legendary microphone on this list, the Shure SM7B. This is an XLR microphone, so you're going to need a few things to really make this work. But if you're looking for the best rich radio sound for your voiceovers or for podcasts, this is pretty much the microphone to get. 28% off right now, $360. This is wildly popular. You probably see this microphone all over different podcasts. Joe Rogan, Think Media, we use this one. But there are some accessories you want to pick up, because these microphones are great, but they kind of have a weak audio signal. So you kind of have to boost it before you go into a camera. And so some of those boosters are the Cloud Lifter. This is $130. And then there's also the Fethead, which is a little bit cheaper, $75. Different purposes depending if you want to. This one you'll need two XLR cables versus this one you just only need the one. But pairing that with this, you're going to have a great audio setup. Just plug it into an XLR input or even a camera, if it has an XLR adapter. But yeah, this will give you legendary audio. Craig, what do you think of this before we move on to our next category?
Yeah, it's surprising. A lot of people think they just updated this microphone with the SM7DB. So if you have a little bit more to spend, you could check that out. And what it does is eliminates the need for you to have that cloud lifter or something to boost the signal because they built that into the microphone. So you could look at the SM7DB if you want. But a lot of people still think the original SM7B sounds better than the updated version. So just something to be aware of. Like you can start listening to references or look at reviews of each. We've actually done a review where we competed these against each other. So you can listen to those back if you want to check it out. But I like the microphone. I think obviously it's like the most popular microphone ever for podcasters. So I personally think it's great. But I myself, I did buy the SM7DB because I didn't want to deal with kind of boosting the audio gain signal.
Right.
I just thought it was an easier solution. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So I know we're going rapid fire here. If you have questions too, drop them in the chat and we'll try to help you. And the whole goal here with this stream is to give you a checklist of all of the different items that you would need if you're wanting to start a YouTube channel. So we've gone through cameras and lenses, and now we're going to hit lighting. Okay. So we have some multiple lights that are all really affordable that I want to check out here. So the first one on our list is this one right here from Mount Dog. This is their softbox lighting kit, and it's on sale 33% off for $40. And this is a great lighting kit, and it comes with a lot of what you need to get going. And Nate actually just did a review of this. So Nate, tell me about the Mount Dog kit and why it's so great.
Yeah, I mean, what's most important, people overlook lighting. You know, you're spending a lot of money on cameras and microphones, but honestly, upgrading your lighting is huge because, I mean, if I didn't have a light on, you couldn't see me, right? And what's the importance of that? So getting something like this, what's important for filming yourself, what we call a key light, is having a soft quality light. And this has a built-in. This comes with everything, by the way. But the softbox is what's really important because it's going to smooth out some of the wrinkles, not as harsh shadows. So when I have this set up nice and close, without it being in a frame, that soft quality light is going to help reduce some of those pores or wrinkles, and you just look really flattering. Again, if you learn lighting, soft lighting for a face usually looks good, especially if you're doing YouTube videos. It's also just like easier on your eyes. Like I've filmed a lot of times with like a harsh light and I just like squint. This is actually just very pleasant to be in front of, which is important. You need to be comfortable when you're making videos.
Yep.
So once I dial in the exposure in this shot here, you can just see how good that looks. And it's a $50 or $40 light right now.
Yep,
Comes
$40
with the light
on sale.
stand, comes with the remote. It's a pretty good basic one. Of course, there are better lights out there, and we'll touch on a few other options. But it's just a great light just to get up and running if you want a quality setup.
Let's even do some real-time comparisons of our lighting. Okay, this will be a fun test. So as you can see right here, like I'm using just like one light in my studio, and we see kind of like a harsh line with my hat. That's because this light source that I'm using is not very diffused. I kind of just have it bounced up on the ceiling to try to create a nice little soft light, but it's not working very well because the light is not really diffused. And then Nate, on the other hand, I mean, Nate looks really softly lit. He's using a larger light source. And so that's the benefit of going with something like the Mount Dog, because it's a really wide surface area. And sometimes these smaller lights create really harsh or not pleasing shadows on yourself. And you can see that with my hat. It's kind of like a sharp line across my forehead. That's not ideal. If I was at my like traditional set in my studio, I'm using a really large softbox, and that's going to create a more pleasing light like Nate has right now. Nate, you look great, man. So shouts out to your lighting.
Appreciate that. And just to illustrate the importance of having proper lighting, I could do the stream like this, and maybe it's a mood, maybe it's vibe, but Yeah, just it makes it so much better. You want to be able to see the person who's speaking. So, yeah, great thing to pick up. But there are some more professional lights out there, and if you are looking for a good upgrade, we'll tackle some of those in
Yep.
just a
Uh,
second.
Yep, absolutely. So let me show you first, like if you want a really budget setup, this is actually a pretty solid kit. We included this nice VD2 pack, and it comes with everything you need. It's got, your light stands. It's got even these weird phone holders. It comes with phone holders that you can attach to the lights, which is kind of interesting. So you can use it, for your selfie videos if you want. But at the end of the day, it's kind of two streaming lights for under $50 is wild. So you would set these up on kind of each side of you to your left and to your right, and you'd have a key light and a fill light or maybe a background light. And we included this kit in a complete YouTube setup video for under $1,000. So if you want to check out that video we've done on Think Media, we use the ZVE10 with a Viltrox lens, and then we use these as our lighting source because they're really budget and we wanted to stay within budget. So this is a good option. But if you have a little bit more to spend, there are some other options. So the Elgato key light would be a more professional version of a streaming light. And this integrates really well into, if you're someone who likes to use technology like apps, or you have maybe a Stream Deck from Elgato and you like to program lights and color temperatures, that's really where Elgato shines. Is they have like an ecosystem of integrated technology. So Elgato is really good. And then we have some other kind of studio lights. So the Amaran 60DS, this is like our number one recommended light. If you want to get any light, get the 60DS. Nate, do you have this light in your studio?
Yeah, I do. I'm actually I recommend it for the desk setup if you want to build that, but I'm also like currently working on trying to build an office space that to look nice. And this is the light I'm actually using for that setup. The reason this one is so good is 60 watts of output is actually quite a bit for a little studio or a room. So you get a lot of output, but also the quality of light. Not many people know this, but basically, if on this cheaper LED lights, and honestly on the Mount Dog, you're not going to get the truest reproduction of color. So sometimes your skin might look slightly different. Again, these are different nuances, but the 60DS and Amaran is known for having just really good color reproduction. So this one is great if you are, in front of the camera and want accurate skin tones. You just pick this one up. There's two different models. There's a DS, which is daylight only, and then there's a 60XS, which is bicolor. So you can change the warm and the coolingness of it for a little bit extra. But what's important for a light like this, we'll touch on later, is different modifiers you'll need in front of it.
Yep.
But I know you have one more RGB light. Well, I'll let you hit.
Yep. So this is the last light that we'll mention is also from Amaran. So this is their P60C. And actually, this is the light that I'm using right now to light this scene. And it is an RGB light. And typically I'm using it to add a splash of color to my YouTube studio. I like the RGB look. I like the pinks. I like the blues and the purples. I just like to mix it up every once in a while. So that's what I use this for. But it also can be used for daylight temperature. So I have it set to 5,600 Kelvin right now, and it's just serving as kind of like a key light to light this whole spare bedroom at my in-laws house. So I like the light. It's a solid light. And I use it also for, like, I know Nate, you've used this before on like film sets and studios,
Yeah.
as and we use it too. I used to be a director of video production, and we bought, like, I think we had 8 of these at one point. I think we sold a couple of them,
That's
but we
awesome.
would rig them up in our studio spaces. So it's just a really versatile light for $349. It's not on sale right now, but I can't recommend it enough. I use it all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
This one also has 60 watts of power, so you're gonna get plenty of output and have the benefit of having colors. Again, this is a panel light, so the thing with film lighting is you wouldn't necessarily use this as your key light for filming yourself, lighting yourself. It would be a little bit too harsh for that. This is great for backgrounds or just throwing a bunch of color on the wall.
Yep.
But that's where you want to get like something like the 60DS and getting
Yes.
a modifier, which we'll talk about. Um, so these lights use what's called Bones mount. So it's kind of like your lens has a lens mount. This one allows you to attach different modifiers or accessories. So one thing you want to pick up is a softbox, and this one in particular is a like lantern style. And Omar did a bunch of videos. He loved this one because it kind of just like fills out your whole room, right? Sometimes you want a little bit more control with a traditional softbox, but this one just kind of lights up your whole area, kind of foolproof. You just turn it on and it works, right? So this one's 20% off. You attach this to your 60DS and you'll get a great soft image. There's also one thing you want to pick up if you are getting a light is thinking about a light stand. And you could get a normal light stand, but I recommend getting something with wheels in your studio instead of picking up and moving around and putting it back down. Getting something like this that you can easily wheel around is fantastic. And actually, we have a whole video about building an all-in-one YouTube studio setup on a wheel using this rig. So you could pick up this, you could pick up the 60DS, mount your camera to the stand, and you can basically use that to roll around your studio. And yeah, that's a great way to just speed up your workflow. So those are all the lights and stands you'd want to consider. We're going to move on to some tripods here because if you are filming yourself, maybe you want to step away and don't want to hold the camera. Tripod is one of those essentials. So, Craig, I'll have you take this one away.
Yep, absolutely. Let me share screen here. Okay, boom. The Ulanzi MT56. And I believe, Nate, is this your
Yeah, I've
like
actually
favorite
have it
budget
right
tripod?
here.
Oh, look at that.
It's growing on me. I don't know if here's what I like about this. So I came from like film production background and you have like these beefy heavy tripods.
Yeah,
Well, that's not really needed when you're doing YouTube videos in your room, in your house. You just need something light that can hold your camera. This one I like about it is because it has a little fluid head. So you can get like smooth pans and tilts. And that's something really important for me if I'm filming B-roll. I just like that cinematic look. You can use this if you're traveling on the go because it's pretty lightweight. You could take off the head. They actually come with two different heads. There's the fluid head. There's also a ball head, which is a little bit more for photography, or if you just don't want to deal with um, the little fluid head, just want to lock it
sure.
off. But for $56, it's one of those tripods I think is a great investment, and you can't really go wrong because let's say you do want to upgrade your tripod later, throw this in the back of your car as a backup. Comes with a phone mount as well,
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
it's really hard to beat for that price point.
Yep, $56. I mean, yeah, the big thing with the tripod is just get the best one you can that's also still within your budget range and usually has a fluid head. And that's going to help you get smoother motion if you're trying to do like product shots on a table. You want that fluid head in particular. For $55, it's going to be very hard to beat that price point with any other tripod brand. And then we just have one more tripod we want to mention, which is something I use all the time. I still use the Gorilla Pod. So you can grab a Gorilla Pod. You can look like Casey Neistat, vlogging in the streets if you want. But I don't even really use it for vlogging all that often. I actually use it in my studio space. If I want to just grab like a product shot really quickly, I'll usually just have, and this I think is the kit. So the kit technically comes with this ball head too. It's not just the legs. And so that ball head allows you to kind of angle the camera into a certain position. And so I'll usually keep the tripod plate of this Gorilla Pod on a certain camera in my studio, like the A7 IV. So anytime I want to just pop it on these legs and either take it out of the house with me to go vlogging or get a tabletop sort of setup shot with that A7 IV, I do that. So I recommend still like it's, I know it's 2024, but I'm still using the Gorilla Pod. Like, I don't know if you are, Nate, but hey, like I like the Gorilla Pod.
No, that deal actually makes me I might just pick that one up for myself potentially because yeah, like the thing about the Gorilla Pod is this it's actually sturdy. There's some knockoff cheaper ones that actually don't hold your camera well, but this one's going to nicely hold a mirrorless camera. Even if you put what's that on there? An 85 they're showing off.
Yeah, they're showing
I
an
probably
85
want to
that
do
are.
that,
Yeah.
but incredible definitely one of those things that's going to help you shoot better
Yeah.
and more
I mean,
convenience, right?
up to 6.5 pounds, 6.6 pounds. I mean, that's going to be basically any mirrorless camera with a normal lens is going to be able to fit this. I often am using the FX3 or the A7 IV, so those Sony cameras, which are full frame cameras, with a smaller, more compact zoom lens. So maybe like a 24 to 70 or even a prime lens like the 20 millimeter f1.8 Sony lens. I like that lens on this too. So yeah, that's the GorillaPod. Okay, Nate. I know we have a few more we want to get through in the next few minutes. What's our next category? Is it software, perhaps? I
We're
think.
going to talk about some editing software as well as some computer recommendations, but I actually do want to remind everyone this crazy deal that Epidemic is having on licensing music for your YouTube videos. Because if you are looking to make videos in this next coming year, having good music is pretty key for that process. And at Think Media, we use Epidemic literally for every video on this channel. And not only do they have great music, but they have great sound effects as well, which is pretty important to upgrade your audio quality because in my opinion, we talked a lot about gear, but if you improve your audio and your sound, you're going to make better videos for sure as far as the technical aspect. So let's go ahead and let's touch on some editing software as well. So Craig, you and I, we've been going back and forth
The
on
beef.
this. The beef. Different editing software. Well, this one might change my mind on this because Adobe has 50% off their Creative Cloud, which is all their editing apps, Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, After Effects. This is on B&H. You can actually buy a whole year for 330. This is honestly a great gift for someone who's maybe just right out of college and maybe they're trying to learn. Um, I think this is an incredible deal if you're wanting some professional level editing software. A bunch of different apps for this.
Yep.
I think that's pretty key. Craig, do you want to touch on that real
Yeah,
quick?
it just, I mean, the big thing with Adobe is you get all of the applications. So you get After Effects, you get Lightroom if you're a photo editor or Illustrator. So it's also really great for teams. So if you're, if you're a part of a team, if you work at a church or a nonprofit, or you work for a video production agency, it's just good to be aware of the kinds of deals happening because you could always register with a new email address and get half off for a year. So you're saving some money. So I like Adobe. I still use Adobe to edit my videos. I know, Nate, you've moved on from the Adobe
I
Creative
moved
Cloud
on.
suite. But I think this is a great deal for anybody just wanting to get started with Adobe.
We also have another editing software that's also on sale, and that is DaVinci Resolve Studio. Now, the great thing about Resolve is there is a free version if you just want to get started. But if you're like, okay, I've used Resolve for a bit, I'm ready to upgrade to get some pro level features. Well, currently, right now, it is 20% off. This is the editing program I use, the Superior program, Craig. And honestly, I've used this for every single video I've edited here at Think Media. Reliable, a lot of awesome controls with it. And again, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy this, but if you're shopping around, this is a great time to buy some great editing software. But Craig, there's something we neglected this whole time and we've saved for some special viewers for this stream. And that is we're actually giving away a camera. So if you want to get interested in that, as well as learn, we covered a lot of tech deals and we have more. We've actually had a whole list of this on thinktechguide.com. So if you go down to that website, there's actually a way you can enter to win a ZVE 10 Mark II, as well as some of the lighting and microphones we've actually covered in this video. So this is really a great time to not only just check out the deals, look at some Q&A. If we didn't answer your question, there's possibly we've already answered it in the FAQ section here. But yeah, you have the potential to win this awesome giveaway. And yeah, you can go to this page here. We'll have instructions for you on how to fill it out. But we have the Rode Video My Go-To ZVE10, a tripod, SD card. So you can go here, you can sign up and get ready to go. And hopefully one of you guys can win this camera. So just go to thinktechguide.com and we'll hopefully one of you will win because I think that setup will allow you to create some great videos in this upcoming year. Now, Craig, we have some editing machines. Maybe
Yep.
you're curious about, okay, once I shot my video, how do I edit it? So this is the 2024 MacBook Air. Craig, I have you take this one away.
Yeah, so I think the big thing for anyone, if you don't have an editing machine, Black Friday is by far the best time to pick yourself up an
Oh,
editing
yeah.
machine, especially for Apple. Apple isn't typically running mid-year sales. I mean, every once in a while they'll do, but Black Friday, there's typically some of their baseline machines, especially, are on sale. So this is $844 for the 13-inch version with the M3 chip. So this laptop is going to be great for your basic video editing. It should be able to handle um, pretty low level, like 4K video editing, but also any sort of 1080p workflow for sure with the MacBook Airs. And then as well for you photo editors out there. So if you need a good laptop, a baseline 13-inch version right here is going to be a good starter option. You could also look at the MacBook Pro instead of the Air, which is just going to give you a little bit more power to be able to just handle those 4K video workflows. So all the cameras we mentioned can shoot in these really nice high quality resolutions and codecs, which sometimes require a system that's just a little bit more powerful. So before you start like upgrading your cameras thinking you're going to shoot in like 6K or 4K resolution, you want to make sure that you have a computer that's going to be able to handle those files. Because I know for me, when I was first starting out, I was getting all these new cameras and stuff, but I was still on like a 2012 MacBook Pro, like a baseline model. And then I would import my footage into Premiere and like just nothing. I'd hit play and nothing would happen. I would just see like skipped frames and like, what is going on? And I was young at the time. This is like 10 years ago, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So you got to make sure that you have the hardware in order to be able to edit on these different machines. So MacBook Pro, this is 13% off with the M4 chip. And that's a great chip. That's their newest chip.
That is brand new. That came out like a couple weeks ago or
Yeah.
something like that. But this last one, Craig, I don't know about you, but this M4 Mac Mini just looks so adorable. I just want one just
It's
to
so
sit on
cute.
my desk. And this one,
it's all
this
day.
was literally announced like a month ago, and it's already 12% off during this holiday season. Pair this with a monitor, a keyboard, and mouse, and under $1,000, you have a wonderful editing setup that you can use. And really just, again, if you don't have a good editing system, like you were saying before, you don't want to face some of those headaches. So having a good computer paired with your equipment is going to be just is going to be a major deal if you are trying to create content.
Yep, and then the important thing to know about the Mac Minis are they obviously do not come with a monitor. So
Mhm.
it's just this kind of little brain. It's like the computer, but then you have to attach it to other peripherals like a mouse and a keyboard and a monitor. So it's a great budget starter, but it can get up there in price if you're not aware that you also have to buy some of these other things. So I would recommend people like, don't go out and spend $2,000 on the most expensive computer monitor if you're going to buy a Mac Mini. Like, get yourself some budget
Mhm.
items, and then for maybe around $1,000 or $1,200, you can get yourself a desktop setup, which I think is a really good starter deal for a lot of people. With that brand new M4 chip too. I mean, $529
Yeah.
for the M4 chip. Like, come on now. Like, where was this stuff when I was like starting
I
out?
know, right? Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, we have a few more different accessories. We'll talk about some storage options as well, because if you do get a new Mac, chances are you're not going to have a ton of storage. But let's hit storage for cameras first. And here I have some of my favorite SD cards. These are made by Lexar. And the important thing to know about getting a fast SD card, there's two things: the storage size and as well as the speed. So these are V60 rating, and that will cover everything if you're shooting 4K video on the ZV-10. They work with all the cameras we have mentioned. Now, you might want to go out and get a V90 if you're doing crazy slow motion, but these, I have not had any issues with them. They come in a 2-pack for $60. So wonderful deal. Put those on your cameras. And I do recommend picking up a couple, because you don't want to risk all your files on one card, because if something happens to it, you lose it. It's not a good thing. So having a couple is definitely a good thing to have. And honestly, buy a couple of these packs, because you'll probably need them. And then as well, as far as the hardware, as far as your storage on your computer, you want to pick up some external SSDs to host all your different projects. If you had troubles filling up the space on your computer when you're editing, there's a lot of it's a big files you're dealing with. So this one is 48% off. Samsung T7 2 TB. And what I like about SSDs is you can edit right off of them, and they're going to be super fast. There are some external hard drives. I would not recommend editing off of those. So you're going to have a lot of headaches. But for editing off a SSD, this is a great deal, $140. And we also do recommend an external hard drive for just storage of your project. So after you finished, you loaded up everything on your SSD, you're finished with your project, you might want to archive these onto a 20 terabyte hard drive. So this one, I believe right now is 270, but you can shop around for different sizes and capacities and what fits your budget. But these are great things to have. Data management is important and something you do want to look into. But that covers storage for us. Craig, we have a few of this like accessories, some of our things that we love that just help us improve the videos we make here. So I'll have you kind of cover
Yeah.
these.
Yeah. So if you are somebody who maybe you are a live streamer, so maybe you're on a stream like this, or maybe you work with clients and you like to record for longer record times, something you can do is grab what's called a dummy battery, which is just kind of like a fake battery that you put inside of your camera. And it has some contact points that allow you to send power to the camera via a power strip or like a power cable. So you can plug this into the wall and now power a camera with continuous battery power and never have to worry about your camera dying. So I'm using one right now for this stream. If I wasn't, I'd be really stressed. I'd be like looking over here like, okay, how much battery do I have left? So I'm using continuous power all the time with these. All of my actually cameras in my studio I have running on continuous power. So I can just focus on my content delivery and I don't have to worry about, is my tech all going to die? Is something
Yeah,
really
it's
bad
one
going to
less thing
happen?
to worry about and allows you to put your focus on what really matters. So
Yep.
yeah, $30, that's a no-brain move. Pick one up.
Yep.
This next one is a capture card, and the reason you might need this is I'm actually using this thing right now for this live stream. I can connect my camera. The HDMI goes into this card, and that card goes into my computer. And this will kind of read your camera as a webcam. So that's how we're able to look so crispy in front of the camera. This thing, I believe, goes for around $25 to $30. I've used this one for legit over 2 years and never had an issue with it. I've used some cheaper ones that crapped out around 6 months. So I kind of like to stick with Condor Blue.
Yep.
They make some great accessories as well, but highly recommend getting a capture card.
And then with a capture card, you're going to need an
Yes.
HDMI cable as well. And there's so many options. I think the ones you want to make sure they're like 4K rated, higher gigabits per second is really important. And then just like, a lot of these too, if you click on one of them, it's going to have different variations. Let's see if this one does.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this one has like 6 feet, 10 feet, 35 feet. Actually, something you should know about HDMI is it gets less and less reliable the longer cable run that you create. So don't mess with these down here. Don't mess with a 150-foot HDMI cable.
You
Like
need the
that's not.
one the size of a football field.
Yeah, that is not what you want. So, I actually use a 10-foot cable. Something just like this is going to be a great option. It's rated for 8K up to 60 frames per second. So that should fit most of your needs for any, streaming stuff that you might be doing, or even just video monitoring. Sometimes people like to use like a actual camera monitor to watch themselves back as they're recording. So you could plug in your video signal to a camera monitor with HDMI. Okay, Nate, I think we maybe have just a couple more options.
That
Let's see.
is the last bit of things on our list. And I
Lovely.
quickly want to mention to those who were watching and made it this far, just a reminder that we are giving away a camera, a ZVE10 Mark II, which is a great camera, different accessories. Go to thinktechguide.com. And also, like we mentioned before, if there's things we haven't covered, chances are we'll probably answer them in that FAQ. We'll probably stick around to do some Q&A here in this stream a little bit later on the after show. But go definitely check out Think Tech Guide, win a camera, win a kit. And also, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to check out more accessories, we actually have a video on 20 best accessories for your camera. You can check at the end of this video. All right. So, Craig, let's dive into some Q&A. Leave a question down for us, and we'll hit a few of these. Craig, do you have any questions that popped up?
Yeah, it looks like one popped up here about camera choice. Like, should we get the A7C in 2024? Spend a little bit more. Grab the A7 IV, just a beginner. However, I want to invest in the future. That's a great question. Nate, do you have any
Hmm.
thoughts initially? And I'll try to kind of wrap my head around. This is a complex question
Yeah.
because they're different cameras for sure. Do you have thoughts?
Right. The A7C, I want to make a distinction, A7C versus A7C2. The A7C2 and the A7 IV are pretty much the same camera in different form factors. No, people are a big fan of the A7C kind of body because it's easier to travel with. You got that viewfinder. So out of these options, I'd say A7C2, but if you're specifically saying the Mark 1, I probably stray away from that unless I was doing just photography. The video features are a little bit outdated. So to address your question, I would say A7 IV or A7C2. And I do think it's important to maybe do invest. If you are looking at this as an investment, it might be worth spending a few extra dollars and have a camera that lasts longer versus buying one and wanting to upgrade in a year or two.
Sure, absolutely. Yep. I agree with that recommendation. There's not much I need to add. Well, I guess the one thing I will say about the A7C is I think that actually is the same sensor as the A7 III.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so the A7 III was like, for me, it was a camera I used when I was going on tour with artists and shooting concerts. So I was like, filming A-list celebrities with that camera and taking photos of people. And like, it's such a capable camera. So the A7C is a more compact version of that. So it's not to say that the A7C is not going to give you good results. It's just like technology has advanced quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'd probably recommend just save a little bit more if you can to get that A7 IV, and you're going to love the 10-bit color and the updated
Hmm.
sensor out of that camera, especially if you're doing video too. So photos, I mean, you could get away with the A7C, but if you want to do video stuff, A7 IV all day long. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's see. Other questions?
We have one here. Hollyland Mark Lark M2, is it better than DJ? Oh, they're saying it is better than the DJI, also on sale. Well, that's up for debate. I do think that's a wonderful microphone. It just depends on your use case. Both are fantastic.
Yep, true. Oh, look at this one. Here we go. What teleprompter would you
Dude,
recommend?
we forgot to mention, I will look this up. The teleprompter I use, and via Craig's recommendation, is
Yep.
the one made by Elgato, and it is on sale, folks. I forgot to mention. This is one of those things that are not necessarily, but if you are doing lots of content, it's worth picking up. 30% off, $200, Elgato teleprompter. I use it for, it's so nice if you have looks like what's written on display. You can read to have a lot more confidence in what you're shooting. If you are doing Zoom calls, then you can have it to look someone directly into the camera. Craig, just talk about this camera because I know you've done a full review.
Yeah, so the Elgato prompter, I think it literally went on sale today because I've been
Yeah,
monitoring these deals and I saw an email from B&H like, "Oh, the Elgato prompter is on sale now." And it's like, "Oh, sweet. That's amazing. This is the lowest price it's ever been." I think it's typically
that's amazing.
$280 and now it's just under 200 at 199. So, I think the cool thing for me about, and I'm actually using it right now, so I can actually look into my monitor and
Nice.
I have other deals pulled up. So, even though it looks like I'm looking directly into my camera and looking into the audience, I can see some extra deals and some like behind the scenes notes that I have here for this stream. And so I'm always using it as like a almost like a second display. And that's what's
Hmm.
cool about this is some other teleprompters, they require you to put an iPad sort of like hold, it has an iPad holder and then you have to download teleprompter software and it just gets kind of finicky. But this one comes with the software from Elgato for an actual teleprompter read, and it kind of tracks with your voice. But then you can also just use it as a computer monitor. So that's typically the way I'm using it. I have it just like as an extended display. So yeah, it's a very versatile option. And
Yeah.
I love that we have our producer in the background playing this video of the Elgato prompter review. So check that out too. It's got, a lot of good information about the Elgato prompter in that video. Yeah.
Yeah, and if politicians can use it, so can YouTubers. So let's go ahead and address this next question. Should I get the A6700 or S9 for video and photos? This is a great question because they're probably similarly priced. I think the S9 is like 1500,
Yep.
1400, A67 is 1400.
Looks like the
Um,
S9 is on sale too. I think
ooh, is it?
1300 for
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I think you really have to ask yourself different. There's a lot to consider. First, you're considering two different brands, and that's two different lens ecosystems. Um, one is going to be full frame, the other is going to be APS-C. So you're going to have different lens choice. Sony has a little bit more of a mature lens collection, so you can get about almost any lens for the E mount. The S9 has the L mount, which is pretty mature in itself, but it hasn't been as long. So you will have to think about that option first and foremost. I know the S9 has some issues with overheating and different recording options. I know there's been some firmware updates and fixes. So I don't quite know what level it's at. But I do think the A6700 is probably more of a well-rounded camera.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
yeah, and I actually, because I use a similar sensor, I at least know what it's capable of as well. But it really depends. Like, are you more photography? Maybe the S9 is better. You don't get a viewfinder. Is that an important deal breaker for you? So that's a lot to consider. It really depends on how you plan to use it. But Craig, how would you answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I'd go for the A6700, just because of all, all those kind of things Nate
Yeah.
mentioned, lens selection, especially third-party lenses. When you buy a camera, like especially a mirrorless camera, that's a detachable lens system, you always got to consider what lenses am I going to buy? It's like buying a bunch of tires without buying a car. And it's essential part to make this all come together and all work. So for me, I would go for the A6700. Not to say this is a bad camera; it's a great camera, and you can get great image quality out of the S9. But for me, maybe I'm biased because I have a bunch of Sony cameras, but
Mhm.
I would go
Well, I
for.
used I used to be a Panasonic Lumix shooter for a long
Mm,
time, and I think they're great cameras, but there is a little bit of downside when you're filming yourself, right? So I think Sony is just a little bit more geared to the content creator in that regard.
yep.
Just tuned in. Could you recommend outdoor cameras? Also, should I get one with a solar panel since I live in Arizona? That's not quite video. That's outside of my expertise. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually couldn't help you with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need a security system for my house. So if I do some research, I will maybe that'll be a Think Media upload, like best cameras to mount on the side of your house.
Mhm.
But I unfortunately don't have an answer for that.
So we'll answer a few more questions. Go ahead and drop them down below, and we'll be answering away. There is one here I think is important to address. Which camera is best for a four-person podcast, and how many cameras would be good for someone on a budget? And do I also need a switcher? Craig, I'll have you take this
Man,
one away.
yeah, that's a complex situation. So
Right.
there's multiple problems here. You got a four-person podcast. How many cameras, to buy for a four-person podcast? Usually I like to have a dedicated camera for each person. So that would be four cameras. And then I like to have a wide camera of my scene. So that'd be five cameras. And so that's pretty intense. I would say if I
Mhm.
was doing, maybe what you could do is split it into twos. So you have one shot on two people and then another shot on the other two people. So now you only have to have two cameras for your individual shots. And then you'd have a third as the wide. So then you're, consolidating your cameras down a little bit. So that'd be three cameras that you would need. If you're on a budget, I'd probably look at like even the original ZVE10. That camera doesn't really overheat. So, you put a budget lens on that and maybe something like from Tamron or Sigma that we talked about earlier in the stream would be a good option with a little bit of zoom range so that you can get a wide shot and a tight shot. You could buy those three cameras, for $600 each. It's like 1,800 bucks plus a few lenses. For under $3,000, you could probably get a four-person video podcast started up. And do you need a switcher? I mean, it really just depends on if you want to live stream your podcast and save you time in post production. So you could look at something like the Rode. What is Rode's? The Rodecaster Video is what it's called.
Mhm.
Rodecaster Video. It's their switcher that they just released. It's a 1080p switcher. Or you could look at there's a company called Atomos, and they make a Sumo 19 monitor. So this is a production monitor, but it's also a video switcher, and it's touchscreen, so you can touch the different camera inputs and do a live cut of your podcast. And really, all that's going to do is save you time on the back end from editing your podcast. So it's your situation's a little bit complex. You got multiple people, you
Right.
need multiple
Yeah.
cameras, and really, it's just you got to think through the tech and just how much one way or another time is spent, and either time is spent thinking about your scene and how you're going to rig all your cameras up and live cut it, or you have to do it in post production and just record internally to SD cards. Yeah,
I
hopefully that
really
helps.
agree with your statement. I would say there's probably another thing to consider is maybe there's a podcast studio near you that might have this setup. Is it worth just renting out that space and record 3 or 4 podcasts back to back? Maybe that's cheaper in the long run, and, you can later they might even help edit it for you. So that's something you could consider if you're someone who's on a budget, maybe that helps you get your podcast going. But yeah, if you're like bare bones, you could probably get away with 2 cameras, just 2 on each people, and cut cross back and forth. I know when I edit podcasts, I don't necessarily always rely on the wide. Sometimes it's not needed for the conversation. But yeah, complicated question, complicated answer, but we
Yep.
hopefully that helps.
Here's one more. Maybe you can do one or two more. What are some good
Okay.
lighting options for on the go video or point of
Mm.
view recording? Nate, what do you think on the go video lighting?
Natural light, baby.
True. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's actually a legit question is like, do you have a good eye for lighting and kind of know where you should face? Like put your back towards the sun so it's not right in your face. So that's some like practical things. If you are on the go, a light's not going to be great outdoors, bright sunny day, but during low light, you get a little on camera light, like something like the Aperture MC or the MC Pro little battery that you could put on the top of your camera. Um, that would probably be the things I would recommend. Craig, do you have a response to that?
No, I think those are great options. Yeah, just knowing how lighting works, I think is important. So I like that you mentioned that, Nate. I mean, even right now, I'm in a room that's like it's kind of worst case scenario for me to be. Like I'm at my
Honestly, I think your
in-laws.
shot looks great. It's very
Yeah, like I'm
clean,
just like
minimal
against the
Apple.
wall. Yeah, and so even things like your lens choice is really important. So I'm
Mhm.
shooting with a lens that shoots at a really low aperture value, so it's or really wide open. So f 1.8 is what I'm filming at right now. And so if I scoot back, like I'm good, I'm just going to become one with the wall if I get too much closer. So just choosing a good lens, getting some natural light. I have a window open over to my left to help reinforce my key light. So just thinking about lighting, I think is maybe sometimes more important than even the exact light that you get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the last question here. We could take one more if someone drops it real quick, but these have been some good deals as far as different things that you really want to invest in and to yeah, we tried our best to make this list curated for those on equipment that's actually going to be useful because there's a lot of things that are out there that are not as useful and are just cool things. But yeah, that's hopefully been beneficial to everyone here. Craig, do you have any last statements before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think this is a great stream and gives people a good starting point for each of those distinct categories like cameras, lenses, lighting, microphones. And these are all the things that make up what you need to start a YouTube channel. And they can be really simple. They can be as simple as using your phone. Like your phone is a video creation tool and you can plug a little wireless microphone in and now you got natural light from a window and you're good to go. But you have to think about how you're going to solve these different problems if you don't have a dedicated piece of technology to provide you an audio signal or a video. You got to think through what tools do you have around that can help you increase your production value and your video quality. So this is a great list,
That's
Nate. Great job,
yeah.
man.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you had a great holiday season. Hopefully, you had a wonderful Thanksgiving going into the new year. I pray that you guys have a peaceful and wondrous holiday season. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you Monday for Cyber Deal stream. So, if you like this, then definitely tune back in, and we'll be back at it. So, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.